Hi. I wanted to make this video because I've been thinking, and this time I've been thinking about being a highly sensitive person. So the reason I've been thinking about being a highly sensitive person is because I've only realised recently that such a thing exists, and I think I might be one. So if you've seen my previous videos, you might already know that I'm on a bit of a journey of discovery at the moment after realising in my 50s that I might be autistic. So I've been doing a lot of reading and learning and thinking about the subject of autism, and that's how I came across the mention of highly sensitive people. So with this video, I'm going to look a bit more closely at what it means and whether my experience of life fits the description of being a highly sensitive person. I'll share some of the things that I experience and I'll also tell you about how I've been managing these things with no knowledge of what might have been causing them. So, if, like me, you've not come across the term highly sensitive person before, what does it actually mean? Well, I was quite surprised to read that it's considered to be a personality trait. It feels more like a physical trait to me, but anyway, it's considered to be a personality trait involving increased sensitivity of the central nervous system and therefore a stronger response in the body and mind to the world around. A highly sensitive person is someone whose brain processes all information very deeply, including emotions, thoughts, and sensory input. So there it is, a description of me. I mean, a description of what it means to be a highly sensitive person. So again, I'm left wondering how I made it this far in life with no idea about this. Honestly, I just thought that I have a tendency to overreact to things, to overthink things. So, over the years, I've learned to tone down some of my reactions to be more like other people. I haven't been able to tone down how much I think about things. And as you might already know, that's what got me starting this channel. It's actually a bit overwhelming to find out that this is a thing, and I might not be alone in it, and I'm not just making a fuss about something that, shouldn't really bother me. So after reading that description, it's been quite easy for me to find examples from my life that seem to match it. And while I am pleased to find all this information, I think it's going to take me a bit of time to think it all through and, to come to terms with it. But I guess that's probably also in line with being a highly sensitive person. I always have to take time to think about things before I can decide how I actually feel about them. There's always so much to consider. So maybe if I start by telling you about some of the things that I'm starting to realise may be connected to this, and you can see what you think. I'm still learning, but I think these are things that are relevant here. So first of all is my reaction to smells. It's always been quite extreme, and I have to say that I assumed it was connected to my nose and not to my personality type. But it's been such a feature for me that it did cross my mind quite a few years ago that maybe I should try to find a job that needed a sensitivity to smells, because I could tell that my reactions were stronger than other people's. And I wondered if I could find a way to put that to use. I didn't do anything about it, partly because I don't actually like being around strong smells. I just knew that I experienced them differently from other people. The sensitivity itself can definitely be a bit of a nuisance, and if I ask other people if smells are bothering them, they generally say no, or they even say, "What smell?" So that gave me the clue that my nose or my personality, is more sensitive than other people's. My husband often says to me, with a slight despair, you and that nose. But I do find that some smells are harder for me to tolerate than others, and there are some that I really like. So that's actually one of my secret tricks for managing it. I carry something with me that I like the smell of so that I can use it to help drown out other smells that are bothering me, if I need to. Some of the worst smells for me actually are washing detergent and other cleaning products, perfume, petrol or gas stations, blue cheese, smelly shoes. It doesn't feel as awkward to speak up when the smells are, the smells that I don't like are ones that most people don't like. So probably the hardest ones for me to manage are perfume and washing detergent. Because other people seem to seek out those smells on purpose and want them to be as strong as possible. And if I find myself sitting next to someone who smells of perfume or washing detergent, it can easily overwhelm me, and I'd have to move away or maybe get out my secret smell to save me. At the moment, I've got a little pot of essential oil that I carry around with me, and I can use it discreetly when I need to, to get me through some of those situations. Actually, as a side point here, a few years ago, I completely lost my sense of smell after a certain illness. And you might think that I would have found some relief in that, but I didn't at all. I found it really distressing, and I didn't really tell anyone exactly how distressing it was to me because I didn't really want to admit it to myself. But it did make me realise how much my sense of smell is part of me and how I experience the world. And even though it overwhelms me at times, it was really hard to have it taken away. It took almost a year for me to get it completely back. And actually thinking about that has just reminded me of my happiness video, and how I need to put that on my list of things to be grateful for, because I'm really grateful to have it back. And, I hope I never lose it again. So the next sensitivity that I experience is to sound or noises. So sounds don't tend to get to me as much as smells, but still can be quite challenging. The sounds connected to eating out can be quite hard for me to take. Things like cutlery banging on plates, and dishes getting stacked together, or chairs scraping on the floor. So eating out can be, a bit of an ordeal for me in lots of different ways. So it's probably a bit of a surprise that I even put myself through it. But I do, because I don't want to be restricted in my life. I'd rather find ways to manage it. And a couple of other maybe more unusual sensitivities I have around sounds are light switches and empty crisp packets. Both of those seem to hit a certain pitch that can almost feel like pain to me. I also sometimes get a bit of an emotional reaction to sound, which I've never really understood. Things like background noise that can seem quite harmless to other people can make me feel quite angry, and I'm not really an angry sort of person, so I don't like feeling that anger, but sometimes I can't think straight or get my words out if there's background noise. It doesn't happen all the time, so I think it probably depends on what my brain's trying to do at the time. And my brain is a bit of a mystery to me, but learning more about this subject is helping me to understand, what might be causing those feelings. So I hope in the end I'll be able to explain myself better to other people, when I might need some help. So in some situations, I can use noise cancelling headphones, but not for eating out and other social events. But the headphones are great in other situations, like public transport, And when I flick that switch to cancel outside noise, the relief, can be amazing. So the other sensitivity that comes to mind for me is more to do with how things feel, as in temperature, fabrics, and that sort of thing. I don't own any thick jumpers, and I certainly would never wear a high neck or roll neck top. I have no idea how other people enjoy wearing those, but I know that they do. I would just feel claustrophobic and be overheating straight away. I find that I'm particularly sensitive to temperature, so probably more for warmth than for cold, but it can be either. And if I sit next to a hot radiator, it doesn't take long for me to start feeling quite unwell. I think in general, I find that I'm just often very aware of my surroundings, including those things that I've already mentioned, but also, the people, the atmosphere, the potential risks or dangers, maybe even feeling aware that I might be able to predict what might happen next. I particularly get that feeling when I'm driving my car. It's almost like I know what other people are going to do next, and then often they do. So that one's a particular mystery to me because, I don't think that I can predict the future. I think it's more that my brain is taking in all the information and working out the probabilities and then delivering me an answer, without me even asking for it or even being aware that I've been thinking about it. So I wonder if anyone else can relate to that. So I feel like this whole subject is probably another one that can be quite difficult to speak up about because of the risk of seeming weird or self-centered. When I'm in a group setting, I can't really expect to have things exactly as I want them, for my comfort, because what about everyone else and their comfort? So, while I think it's nice to be honest, if being honest is going to make other people uncomfortable, is that the right thing to do? I don't know. But my preference has always been to try and take control of as much of the situation as I can without impacting other people. So, for example, I might try to arrive early to an event so that I can choose the seat not next to the radiator or not next to the area where the dishes are being cleared away. I use my noise cancelling headphones and my secret bottle of essential oils whenever I can, because they can just give me that little bit of extra control over my environment when I'm feeling particularly sensitive. And those are the sorts of things that I can do, to make certain situations easier for me to cope with. I have actually tried telling someone recently that I'm a highly sensitive person, and they laughed. It wasn't a mean laugh, but their first reaction was to think that it was a joke. So I think there maybe is something about the words highly sensitive person that makes it sound, maybe a bit like an exaggeration or even a brag. I actually think those words are a good description of what it feels like, but when people don't understand what it means, I think maybe they don't know how to react. So maybe I'll try again now that I know a bit more about the subject and could probably do a better job of explaining it. So I've mentioned mostly challenges so far, but I do think that there are some gifts that come along with this. And maybe that's why it might feel a bit like bragging to when you try and tell other people. I'm still kind of figuring out what the gifts might be, but I think I've benefited from that feeling of knowing what might happen next, to help me make good decisions. And I've also sort of often felt that I can read other people quite well, and that's been helpful when dealing with difficult situations, in work and outside of work. And I found that people often ask me for my opinion on difficult situations that they have with other people because I've been known for seeing a different perspective or, something that someone else might have missed. And then, of course, there's the deep thinking, that's been the thing that made me start this channel. My curious brain has led me to learn all sorts of different things, and then I enjoy thinking about them and sharing them with other people. I love having a new subject or interest to think about, and I can lose hours deep in thought, just like I've been losing hours making these videos, but I love it, and now I've got an outlet for all my thinking, and an audience who can opt in or out whenever they want. So, in terms of this subject, I'm still learning, so I'd love to hear about other people's experiences and whether there are other tips, for coping, or, maybe other advantages to enjoy that I might not have tapped into yet. So, getting back to the original question, of what it means to be a highly sensitive person and whether I am one. Well, I definitely feel that I have a better understanding now of what it means. And as to whether I am one, I don't really think I needed much convincing after I read the first description. But I'm looking forward to learning more about it and, thinking back over my life experiences with the knowledge that I now have. I expect my brain will be working on it without even telling me. It's probably doing it now, and it will throw me some more interesting thoughts and questions to think about when it's ready. So I hope you've taken something interesting from this video, but I think that's all for this time. Thanks for watching, and hope to see you next time. Bye.